fired by school officials, Indiana's Bobby Knight remains defiant, promising to tell his side of the story.
Drivers wait for lower gas prices as OPEC promises to produce more oil.
And the West Wing rubbed out the Sopranos for top honors at the Emmy Awards. It's early this Monday morning, the 11th of September, 2000.
From Fifth Avenue in the heart of New York City, it's Bryant Gumbel and Jane Clayson. This is The Early Show on CBS.
And good morning. Welcome to The Early Show on this Monday morning. Welcome back from what we hope was a good weekend. Out front with Jane Clayson, I'm Bryant Gumbel. You surprised about Bobby Knight?
Well, I don't think so. I think it's a long time in coming.
Yeah, if it didn't come yesterday, then it would have come somewhere else down the line.
School
certainly. There was an inevitability about it.
A pattern of unacceptable behavior.
But evidently he's not going quietly. We're going to talk about that.
No. Also ahead this morning, Bryant, we'll talk with the two young champions of the U.S. Tennis Open, Marat Safin and Venus Williams. We'll speak with former President Jimmy Carter about a special milestone for Habitat for Humanity. The pop music trio Hanson will stop by this morning, and Cats makes one last curtain call on Broadway. Brian?
All right, Jane. He was known as the General. He was known for taking Indiana University to 3 national championships. But he was also known for his temper. And for that temper, Bobby Knight was fired Sunday afternoon. In protest last night, hundreds of Hoosiers took to the streets of Bloomington, marching on the home of the school president. And for a change, it was Knight who called for calm.
Within the next 2 days, I'm going to get together with as many students who will want to come, and I'm going to tell you my side of this thing. And I think you'll be interested in hearing it.
Bob Knight was put on warning some time ago, hit with a policy of zero tolerance, after an Indiana investigation last May that followed the release of this tape showing Knight choking a player. Last Thursday, it was 19-year-old Kent Harvey who accused Knight of getting physical again and cursing him after Harvey saluted the coach by saying, "What's up, Knight?" In Nashville, Indiana, is Mark Shaw, the stepfather of Kent Harvey, the Indiana University freshman who accused Bobby Knight of grabbing him. Mr. Shaw, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Since you've been critical of, as a radio host of Bob Knight for a long time, can we assume this morning you're applauding his firing?
Boy, Brian, I'm having trouble hearing you, but I must tell you, of course not. I'm sad to see that the coach has been let go. Frankly, all we wanted was an apology from him. When I first contacted Indiana University, that's all we asked for was an apology. In fact, we thought we were going to get one this weekend. One of Coach Knight's friends contacted us, and we hoped we were going to get an apology, but that didn't come through.
You've no doubt heard there are a lot of folks who are saying, given your past and Bobby Knight's problems now, this was a setup. Your response?
Well, Brian, I think, you know, that's absurd. There was no way that this could have been set up by anybody. It's not about me. It's about the fact that, for whatever reason, the coach reacted to Kent's remark in a wrong way. And, you know, I just hope there's going to be some calm now with regard to this. Let the investigation results come out on Tuesday and speak for themselves. And, you know, Brian, I do want to say something about the people that are so upset. I'm the first one to understand their frustrations. I know they love this man. He's a god to them. He's done so many things for the university that have been good. So I understand their frustrations. If they want to take out those frustrations on me, that's fine. But the 3 boys and their 2 friends have done nothing wrong, and I would certainly ask them to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I know life has been hell for your son and for you, actually, for the last 24 hours. Let me ask you to sit tight for a second. I want to go to Washington and bring in John Feinstein, who wrote about Bobby Knight in a bestseller called A Season on the Brink. John, good morning.
Morning, Brian.
John, was this long overdue?
Yeah, it was, and it was overdue not only for Indiana, but for Bob Knight, because the fact is that what this latest incident proves yet again is that as bright as Bob Knight is, there's something inside him that doesn't allow him to understand that there are certain ways you cannot behave, no matter who you are, no matter how many games you've won, no matter how much good you've done for your school and your sport. He didn't get it back in May when he got his so-called zero tolerance policy put on him. He was still hostile, still thought he hadn't done anything wrong, and because of that, this was going to happen sooner or later.
To a certain extent, did IU officials encourage this type of defiance by letting him get away with it for so long?
Bryant, to me, they're just as complicit in this as Bob Knight is. They never once said to him, Bob, you're a great coach, we love what you do, but you can't slug policemen in Puerto Rico, you can't throw chairs, you can't stuff people in garbage cans, you can't pull your team off the floor in games against the Soviet Union. No one ever told him he did anything wrong because he was winning lots of games. What I thought should have happened in May is that Knight should have been fired, and then the president and the board of trustees should have resigned en masse because they were just as guilty as he was.
What do you expect him to say when he tells, as he calls it, his side of the story?
Well, again, it's going. See, this is the problem, Bryant. Bob's never been wrong. Not once in his entire life has he ever done anything wrong. There's always an explanation, a reason, an excuse, someone else who's at fault, and that's what this is going to be. It's going to be that Miles Brand was out to get him for some reason, that this was some kind of setup by Kent Harvey. There will be an explanation and an excuse, but it doesn't change anything. You know that.
I understand he went in a rage at you one time when you called him Knight.
I actually didn't call him Knight. I was speaking to someone else. And the person asked me what I was going to do, and kind of putting myself down for having no life,
sure,
I said, I'm just going to do what I do every day and follow Knight around. And he whirled on me at that point, finger in my chest, profanities going, as was always the case with Bob, saying, don't you ever call me Knight. You're almost 20 years younger than me. Who do you think you are to speak to me that way? So when I heard this story on Friday, unfortunately, it had an absolute ring of truth to me.
Yeah, as always, the players are claiming now they'll walk if their coach has to go. Is this, what do you see happening to the IU program?
Well, you might see a couple of transfers, some of the younger players who came to play for Knight, but I think what will happen, Indiana needs to move quickly. If I were them, I'd be on the phone to Steve Alford this morning saying, please come back and coach this team, because if he came back, I don't think anybody would leave, but I think most of them will stay.
And Mark Shaw, can Kent Harvey go back to IU and finish out there? What do you think?
I don't know. I certainly hope so. We'll just have to see what happens there. You know, I would say this. I now see why it's tough for victims to come forward. Very difficult for them to do so. John knows this as well. When you put yourself in a position, I've had it happen to me, he's had it happen, and now the boys have had it happen. It's tough because you're going to get that criticism. You're going to have this heaped upon you that somehow or another you have this motive or whatever. But I'd like to see people just recognize that these were 5 kids in Assembly Hall getting football tickets. Unfortunately, this incident occurred. Unfortunately, it's a part of the pattern. Unfortunately, the coach was let go. But let's be easy on the kids.
All right. Mark Shaw, John Feinstein. Guys, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
It's 7:07. Jane?
Thanks, Bryant.